And I'm noticing I am low energy today. That is, I don't know what that is. That is no reflection on my excitement for being here with y'all. It's not. It is, there's just, I don't know, there's just a lot going on in the world. And we're going to talk about some of that this morning. So buckle up,
Oh, I'm sure
buttercups.
you're super happy about that. And
There,
you know what? I
mm,
actually want to say something because this is truly like a collective. I've been talking about it with the women in my program and even in my coaching program with the women that I'm in with. We're just
mhm,
like, what is happening? Like, there is some real heavy shit that we're moving through. Um,
yeah,
yeah.
not a lot of
So
fun.
it's
Uh,
not everything, this is life and we're here for it. There was somebody that posted, of course, like I'm being so elusive, of just like there's somebody that posted this thing about just like everything that we're going through. And of course I can't remember, but they were just like it is like this astrological like shit storm more than usual. Like Venus is in like retrograde and like what is Mercury's in retrograde and this only happens once every like 80 years and we're feeling it and like what do we need to do with it and like how do we move through. um yeah, so I'm here to just validate of just like you're not alone in this because
thank
we're
you.
seeing this everywhere.
Thank you. You know this about me. I'm a napper. I love to take naps. I am like queen napper.
Yes.
And I like this just throws me into like, could I just nap a little bit more to not have to like deal with some of the nonsense? And I want to frame today's conversation in a way that encourages curiosity for myself.
Aww.
I don't I don't know how all the rest of y'all are going to show up to this conversation, but I need to show up with curiosity and compassion because I have some preconceived notions. I have some thoughts and feelings about what we're going to talk about today, and I don't want to be I don't want to be intolerant like all of the intolerant people that I'm intolerant of.
Aw. I feel like there was this, so I've had some time to process this. So we're going to talk about the belief that discrimination is not real. Like it does not exist. Okay? So we're going at this from that belief system is that discrimination doesn't exist. And yeah,
Can we disclaimer and go on record? This conversation is not reflective of true beliefs that Leigh Anne and I hold
yes, I was just going to go into that.
or that the show supports. But we do need to go into this topic in order to come out the other side, I think, more informed and better. But these are not our beliefs.
Yes,
just,
yes.
just go
Well, and I
on.
was thinking it's just no, very much, very not our belief system, not my belief system, not Katie's belief system. And this is a belief system that does exist, right? And I got to witness that firsthand with a beautiful opening conversation. It was not beautiful. It was very interesting. I'll just preface it like that. A very interesting conversation with my husband. And he was asking me why I didn't, shop at a certain place or buy a certain. There was a certain product that he noticed I buy differently now, and he was like, "Why? Why did you switch?" I said, "Well, they rolled back their DEI." And that's just like one of the small things that I can do right here, right now to support my beliefs and like the people that I want to lift up and help and advocate for as I explore other ways of doing that. So and whew, our boys were in the back seat. So it was like a very like,
Oh
all right,
man.
how do I handle this?
Uh
So
huh.
anyway, so I told him, I said it's because they rolled back DEI, and my one son goes, "What's DEI?" So before I even had the chance to say, this, uh, my husband goes, well, some people believe that there's discrimination. And then, of course, my son's like, what's discrimination? So,
Mhm.
the thought that people are being treated unfairly and this and that. And he's like, but that doesn't exist anymore in 2025. And I literally, like, I was like, first, I laughed because I thought that I'm like, surely, surely this is
Surely
not a conversation.
this is just a bad joke. Like this is just a bad joke that isn't
And
real.
then I looked over. I'm like, he's serious. I was like, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? So that ended up just. I told him just like let's not talk for a minute. let's just let's just be quiet for a moment here. Thankfully, there wasn't too much longer to drive home, and I really do. My way of like moving through things is I really do need space to like think about like just like take it all in. Like, did that really
Hmm.
fucking happen? First of all, am
Hmm.
I really having this conversation? This is my husband, and these are my like our boys. And like, how do I want to move through this? So it takes me a little bit of time, and that's just how I function and work. So I really started to get curious. That is like truly like when I feel angry or frustrated, like, first of all, acknowledging it. I did raise my voice with him. I'm like, that is absolutely ridiculous. Like, there's so much evidence against that like truth that you have just because it's not your experience. When we really got down to it, right? Like, and I'm going to explain this a little bit again. Oh my gosh, I don't know, we have so much content because of my husband. Like, thanks, Ed.
Thanks,
um
Ed. Thanks, I
Thank
think.
you. It gives me opportunities to like really explore my values and to stand in my values, and to like, there's so much research I've done because I've had the ability to get really curious about like, why would somebody think this? Like, what is it? And he had made the comment then, because this carried on a little bit longer into home. And he said like, that just that compounds and continues this victim stance. Is when we acknowledge discrimination, it's like keeping people in the victim, which he does not. Like, he's all like, empowerment in his own way, I guess, right? Like, I can see it that way. I can try to see it that way. um this is a lot of work, everybody. There's a lot of internal work that I've done to get to this space.
Holy shit.
um
A lot of work.
a lot of work. So being being able to just like research it and be like, why would somebody think this? Like, how what is the logic? Because he's not the only one. And that's the thing, right? It's like, there's a division. We can see it, we can feel it, we can experience it. I experience it all the time. Everybody does. And if we stay curious about ourselves, but also like, why, like, what is going on that's creating this? And that to me helps me to release all of like the fucking yelling between the two, right? All of the noise, all of the look over here while I'm doing this, all of the distractions. When
Hmm.
I can stay curious about something, that totally helps me align with my value of like compassion
Hmm.
and open-mindedness and open-heartedness. So anyways, it was really interesting what I found, because there's, like I said, he's not the only one. So I knew that there was going to be some research around this.
Hmm.
And what I have found is so resonant to like what I see in my husband. And again, I don't know, I'm not going to generalize this to all white males or anything like that. I know like many people see it this way, women too. And like, so let's dive into that. Like, why is it that people are just like, no, there's no such thing as white male privilege or discrimination? Or like, even like we started talking about, I'll say one more thing about this, and then I really want to go into like the logic behind.
Hmm.
Like, I started talking about how it's factual that women are making. I thought it was 91 cents to the dollar, every man's dollar, and then like for minorities, it's like 46 cents to every man's dollar, white man's dollar, right? And he's like, that doesn't take into account like the overtime that men work and how much more they work than women and stuff like that. So again, I know, right? That was my facial expression immediately. It was like, the fuck do you mean? And with more research, I have found that on average, men work, like traditionally work about 3 hours more than women every single week, right? Like I love to research shit. Like this is where I live. It's like, okay, let me get curious and let me find the differences, right? Like in like my belief system, their belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it doesn't take into account and all of that. It doesn't like the all the different research, but it does say even with this, even with that one discrepancy, that one piece that isn't being taken into account, there's still a gap, right? There's still a significant gap. So, anyways, but really looking at like why some believe acknowledging discrimination, like what do they think about that? So they believe they confuse awareness with helplessness, right? That discussing discrimination encourages people to see themselves as powerless victims, right?
Mm.
Rather than capable of, overcoming obstacles. So being able to see how that could, some people could see it that way,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay. And it was cool because then this like really led to these conversations with my sister-in-law about what she sees in inner cities as a teacher. And she's like, no, the kids that I work with understand that it's a systemic issue. It's not being a victim. They understand that like the system is not working. So what do they need to do,
Mm.
right, to like advance themselves and help themselves and stuff? Because what they see is that their mom is finally getting off of food stamps because they have, and this happened with my family too. We stayed on food stamps for a while when I was younger. It's like you have a job, you're making this, but then they take the food stamps away before you can even start, like get the first check and stuff like that. So it's a systemic issue, but like that's what we're looking at is like, confusing awareness with helplessness and,
Mm.
being able to understand, like they believe that it's an excuse, right? It's an excuse for the lack of success. So these are three biggies of like why some believe that like discrimination
Mm.
does not actually exist. It's like a deeper belief system or a fear around it is that they confuse awareness with helplessness. They believe it's an excuse for lack of success, and they see themselves as being unfairly blamed. And this has been, this has been a discussion between Ed and I pretty continuously throughout our relationship of just like, so it's like my fault or their fault. Like I'm just like I had to step away. But anyways,
It's so
I've
that
spoken through this whole time. Go.
no, that's so interesting. That last point of it feels like people are being unjustly blamed. Like there's a level of I don't know if I would call it narcissism or ego or and maybe I'll even just be real generous and say it's just people taking things personally that aren't meant to be taken personally. This is not about and I'm still trying. I don't know that I'm doing a very good job of staying
What
open
is your
minded.
initial reaction?
Well, my initial reaction was similar to yours of like the fuck is going on here? Like and I do like I am white. I am also female. So like there's like I know the privilege and the advantage that I walk into certain situations with.
Yes.
That does not mean that when discrimination happens that I am the perpetrator. I can be aware of again what you were saying around like the systemic issues and the greater cultural issues at hand and know that I'm not actively being the like aggressor or the abuser. I don't have to take it personally to know that it's there and that something should be done about it. So there's a part of me that's like, all right, like I almost like roll my eyes and I'm like, oh fuck, it's not all about you, Ed. Like it's not like this discussion about like discrimination, like don't make it about you, dude. Like think about somebody outside of yourself for just a second. So I have like all those judgments and reactions, and then I go into I try to be curious, and I'm like, okay, my whiteness. I don't want to be okay. So if I get a job, I got hired as lots of really fun titles in my career. If somebody ever said, Katie, you got that because you're white, I don't know how that would. I mean, I feel like there's a part of me that would be like, it would be like somebody saying that I had like blue hair. Like it just wouldn't even land. Like it wouldn't
Yeah.
even, right? Like it's,
Yeah.
I wouldn't give it any real
It doesn't
reaction.
give any credit to like the work behind it or like the, yeah, everything that we've done to align ourselves with this and stuff like that.
Right. And so, but then I wonder if that's also part of my privilege is being able to just like brush it off and be like, no, that's not like, I don't believe that. And I can still be a voice for melanated people and people of different, beliefs and backgrounds. But I guess I do question or I'm curious about that blame piece.
About what piece?
Blame,
Oh, yeah.
the blaming of, right, like, and I also do believe that we all have a responsibility in how we're moving forward. If I don't use my white privilege for good, then I am part of the greater problem.
Right.
And I believe in the philosophy of if I'm not part of the problem, then I can't be part of the solution. If I am not part of this, if I'm part of the solution, then that means I'm also potentially part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just don't understand. I don't understand, and this is going to go right back to me not being very curious, but rather judge, quite judgy. But what is so fucking fragile about who you are and your ego that you feel so threatened that even the conversation about DEI throws you into a place of that can't exist?
Right. And it doesn't exist. And like here's all the propaganda that supports. I'm like, give me some of the research and some of the articles. But and again, this goes right into I want to say more of like conspiracy. He reminds me of my dad more and more every fucking day. And not in a great way. Love my
Not
dad. Love you, Dad. And
not in that like sweet adoration type of way of like, oh, that was like my dad. No, no,
yeah, I'm like, oh shit, that was my dad.
shit.
But like more of the conspiracy around it, right? And just because even when I bring up just the like, well, this article or that article, because that's what I do as a women's empowerment coach. I look at all dimensions and all aspects, and I love it. Um, and I love understanding the mentality behind it, all of it. And yeah, and he just wouldn't even. That's when he cuts off, and I'm just like, oh, because he doesn't believe that. Like he thinks that like basically like liberals write the articles. Anyway, anywho, right? So it's like that's where I just stop, and I'm like, I'm not going to have this conversation. I'm okay. Like I'm just going to get curious about like more of the people that do have this belief system. So I know how I want to respond because it's not about getting into like deep to like and this is what I told him like when I tried cutting it off whenever I try cutting it off like because I have this boundary I'm like we do not talk about politics like we just don't do that. We cannot because I'm not going to change my point of view and you're not going to change yours. Like, we're not going to talk about this. And he's just like, oh, what? You can't take like this discussion back and forth. I'm like, it's not a discussion back and forth. It's just like you're trying to tell me everything that like you believe without backing it up with anything. So anyways, it's how do we respond when we do have these people in our lives, right? When they are part of our lives, because this is not just Ed. This is a depiction of my family, a lot
Mine
of people
too.
in my family,
Mine too.
have this belief, and I love them, and some of my friends do, right? Um and how do I honor, because again, I go back to just like, what is my value? How do I want to move through this? How do I want to process this? And it's so interesting that you bring up the like, how would I feel if, I was told like, you just got in because you're white, like you just got this job because you're a white woman who is aesthetically pleasing, because we know that's also like people veer towards, right? They're more apt to hire somebody who is aesthetically pleasing. Um, and being able to recognize that that can be a truth, and it does not discount our work. It does not discount the experiences that we have had, um, where both of these truths can be held. And I think that goes back to the fragile ego of like, you can't, like, it's very much, oh my gosh, Richard Rohr in his book Falling Upward, he talks about like the first half of life and the second half of life, right? Where it's like, it's very first half of life where it's like you're still not solid in your ego to be able to hold both truths,
Mm,
right? And that's where many people are in this world. And I would beg to say, like, especially in the United States. So being able to recognize like, both of these can be true. They actually are true. Yes, I do have, and we say this all the time, like, yes, I am a white female. I know that I have privilege. I do. And what am I going to do with that? How do I want to acknowledge it? And how do I want to advocate in any kind of way that I can? And that goes down to the businesses that I support and the women that I support and the philanthropy that I support and everything. But like, how do we then? Okay, now coming full circle, of just not full circle, but like back to like, how do I deal with this? If this is in my life, this is in my face, and I have individuals in my life like this, it can be, you can go down this path of just like this, like real, just a dialogue. It's not about like attacking anybody. It's not about like, knowing. And I would say, recognize that like neither of you will likely change your points of view. So
right.
first of all, why are you getting into this conversation? Like, what is it to be able to speak your truths, because that's really important to you, right? We speak out, in our truths, and that's
Mm-hmm.
been like my acknowledgement, is that he's given me so many opportunities to do this. um, and I feel like it's gearing me up for something even bigger.
Mm,
So I really appreciate that, and I appreciate like what the universe has given to me to be able to prepare myself for that next step. And being able to recognize, though, it's like, if you really do want to have a conversation, to be able to differentiate between awareness and resignation, right? Recognizing an obstacle doesn't mean you let it define you, right? It means that you learn how to navigate it, right?
right.
So being able to have this open conversation about it, it's like, okay, I'm just recognizing it. It doesn't mean that I'm becoming this victim, or I am like becoming like that I have to take the blame for anything, right?
Right. Right.
um and being able to reframe the conversation. Would you tell somebody, and sometimes this really lets you see like how people think and view truly. It's like, would you tell someone in an abusive work environment to just stop playing the victim and ignore the issue? Or would you support them in standing up for themselves? And some people will err on the side of like, well, it's their, like, they need to like toughen up or whatever it is. Like, are they just being big babies, or like, and again, it's just bringing it, and I often bring it back to, honestly, my daughter. Like,
Mm,
how would you feel if your daughter was going through this, Ed?
yeah.
How would you feel if this was our daughter's reality? And like, yeah, so that's one way to be able to bring it back in too, of just like, and again, this is for like curiosity, understanding, and then using historical examples, right? The civil rights leaders that just ignored discrimination, and being able to see the individuals who brought it to the forefront, right? So just being able to understand that recognition doesn't, like, recognizing discrimination doesn't mean that someone is powerless. First of all, accountability doesn't equal blame, and
Right.
being able to like recognize success despite discrimination does not mean discrimination doesn't exist, right? Outliers don't disprove the systemic realities, right? Just because
Boom.
some people overcame obstacles doesn't mean that the playing field is fair for everybody.
Boom. Mic drop. Like that's so,
So
yeah. Thanks for joining us on the show today. Leigh Anne just totally wrapped it all up. Like those points are so important to like it's not all or nothing. It's not black and white. It's not this binary. There's this
mm-mm.
spectrum that we can live on and have a better understanding. And frankly, for me, it's all about like empathy. If you can't have empathy, I don't, and this is just, maybe this is me being intolerant of intolerant people, or I lack empathy for people who don't have empathy. But I don't have a lot of space for people who aren't willing to look at it from a different perspective.
Right.
So that's the charge today for everyone. Because we've all got the racist uncle or the like homophobic grandmother or like something. We've all got somebody in our world. Maybe not everybody, but like 99% of us do.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do you have those conversations? How do you love those people? How do you look past some of the things? This is a conversation of challenging all of us to have empathy for a perspective that really just fucking blows my mind.
I know. It did with me too. I was just like, really? There are, and I don't know why it blows my mind because I truly am. Like, I had this conversation with one of my cousins who we have very similar beliefs. And even, some of I have friends that have same beliefs as me, believe me, right? It's not just all or nothing. It's definitely this mixture where but it's like we align and we're just like, how do we speak up still, right? How do we hold our truth? Amongst these people that we are living with. I have a big family too. So, um, but yeah, so hopefully, that sheds some light. This is just a little bit of like what I get inspired by and like where I am like, this is why I do what I do. This is why I research and I write and I explore and that's what I encourage everybody to do is just come at it with a space of and you can still advocate and we are in a time where we have so many opportunities to stand in our truth in a loving and compassionate way and I feel like we're seeing that more and more in a lot of the marches and just like the economic blackouts um, and yeah, just taking this leadership role into each and every one of our hands of how we want to shape this next season of life. So
Amen.
so happy Women's History Month. This is I was telling Katie, I'm like, well, this can be like really good because we do need something like I would like to do something for Women's History Month in the Institute for Female Trailblazers. I am very much a proponent of just like, shout outs to like women in history and women who are making history. And always love doing that. But just bringing it to like now, how do we move through this? How do we have these conversations? And how are we the trailblazers for our family or like how we want to create a different world? So I would love to know, actually, I would love to know who other, like our listeners really are inspired by. I would like, please, 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 like female trailblazers, females that are making history, people, women who have made history. Please like send us a message and let us know because I always love to expand my list like I said, I'm always researching these, like who's the up and coming, who do I want to pay attention to, what kind of philanthropy opportunities are they, engaging in. So if I always love expanding my book knowledge, like any kind of books that you can recommend too. There's one that comes to my mind by Lovey, and Oh my gosh, Sarah had recommended it the one time, and I listened to it, and I just professional troublemaker. That's what it's called.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so really cool. If you have any book recommendations, I would love to hear them. If you have any women who inspire you, that are, making big changes, please, please, please reach out, let us know so that we can celebrate them with you and we can expand our knowledge and our list too, because we are going to make changes united together. We're going to, we're going to move forward. It has to.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
so anyways, until next time, thank you, thank
Mm.
you. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, spread the love, spread the empowerment. And yeah, until next time, just sending so much light and love. And be sure to take the opportunities to stand in your truth so that you can live your legacy. Well, until
Mm.
next time. Mwah!
Mwah.
Three, two, one. Let's go.